You thought that the Olympics couldn't become any more of a disgrace after we've had that absolutely appalling, embarrassing opening ceremony, after we had a convicted child rapist allowed to compete in the volleyball competition, after we've had athletes having to sleep on cardboard beds and running out of food. It couldn't get worse, you thought, but now they have allowed an extremely dangerous boxing fight to go ahead, which I know you've all been hearing about, but everyone's confused. Was it a trans woman, or was it a biological woman who just had high testosterone levels? Why was this person allowed to compete despite having in the past failed testosterone tests that are necessary to compete in the women's gender category? What's going on? I'm going to tell you everything, but first of all, let's just take a look at this fight that only lasted 46 seconds today.
We're off. Carini operating from the southpaw stance. Just falling a little bit short there.
So that's the Algerian in the red who failed the testosterone test.
Good right hook from Carini.
Blue is the Italian woman.
Khelif looking to come in those straight punches to the body of Carini. Nice little lead up from Khelif. Carini just asking to get her head guard tightened in. Solid straight right hand from Khelif there.
That's it. Over. We're ready.
Bout being pulled off by the referee. Carini looking angry in the corner there with her corner. Just
So you can't hear what's being said in the corner to her coach, but she said that that was the hardest punch that she
referee calls both fighters to the centre.
I think she's got a broken nose because of this. You can see the muscular build of the person on the left, who is the one who has these very high testosterone levels. Look at the muscular build compared. Now these two people, they're the same weight, right? But women hold a much higher body fat percentage than men.
Demonstrating from Carini. She talks to her corner. She's not happy about something.
Muscle mass, broader
waiting
shoulder
the results
bones,
here.
much more male-looking build. Which means it's not a fair fight, despite them being the same weight.
In red from Algeria, Imane Khelif.
Why are they
Khelif taking the win as Carini abandoned the bout.
Oh, yeah, she's crying her eyes out. She's so distressed. She's worked all her life to go to the Olympics, and then she gets put in front of someone who is under the testosterone levels considered
She is very
terms.
upset. Olympics is an emotional time for Angela Carini, who lost her father just after her bout in Tokyo.
Not a fair fight. Very, very distressing scenes. Boxing's no joke, guys, okay? You know, it's not a running race where if you're put next to someone that's got way higher testosterone levels than you, is way more masculine than you, okay, you'll lose your race, but you're not going to be hurt. But boxing, guys, don't mess about with boxing. Don't mess about with martial arts. It's very, very dangerous, okay? I know you see in that fight there, you know, we have this idea from the movies that in boxing fights, everyone ends up down on the ground, completely passed out, blood pouring everywhere. But that's not how it happens in reality. Most of these fights, as you saw there, get called off before anyone ends up down on the ground for safety reasons. And that does not mean that you are not hurt. she's taken a really, really couple of big blows to the face there, which could cause her damage to the brain, to the nose. You don't mess about with being knocked in the head, guys. And we really need to understand what happened here, because I'm seeing lots of different reporting on this. I've got some reports saying this was a trans woman, and other reports saying it's not a trans woman, it's someone who's a biological woman that was born with abnormally high testosterone levels. After delving through all the articles on this, I believe that with the current information we have, this was a biological female, the Algerian, who beat up the other woman. However, this Algerian was banned from competing at the World Championships last year by the IBA, the International Boxing Association, because of her failing to meet the eligibility requirements to compete in the women's gender category because of her testosterone levels being so abnormally high. Now, you would expect if she wants to compete again that she would have to do what is necessary to bring down those testosterone levels to a normal level. However, that didn't happen, and she was allowed to compete in the Olympics. So what actually happened? Well, it's to do with the governing bodies. So the World Championships that this person was banned from for having too high testosterone levels, turns out that was with the IBA. However, the Olympics was dealt with by a committee at the IOC, because the IBA, as we see here, was stripped of its status as the global governing body for boxing by the IOC in June last year because it failed to complete reforms on governance, finance, and ethical issues. So although the IBA had this testosterone requirement, it had to be within a certain level, the International Olympic Committee decided not to use that model, and they decided that the testosterone level did not matter, which I think is absolutely appalling, because boxing is a dangerous sport. You do not mess about here just so that you can fulfill your woke agenda and be inclusive and not discriminate against anybody who wants to compete as a woman. It is downright dangerous to allow somebody with a male build to compete against a woman with a regular build. Okay, those punches are going to be a heck of a lot harder. It's going to be a heck of a lot more dangerous. Also, I don't know in this case if it was a person born as a biological woman, if this will apply here, but men have quicker reaction times than women. That means they're able to react to punches quicker, whereas women, they're less likely to see them coming and to be able to defend themselves. There are huge advantages for males in boxing. You've got wider knuckles, wider wrists, much stronger wrists that are able to do more powerful punches without it breaking their hands, which is a very big fear for boxers in competition. That there's so much that gives males an advantage in this space, and the consequence can be somebody dying if they get punched too hard. You know, this boxer is lucky that they've just got a hurt nose, but it could have been a lot worse, and I think that the IOC have a lot of questions to answer on this as to why they allowed this fight to go ahead and why they did not use the IBA requirement for a certain testosterone level before allowing this person to fight. So this is what the International Olympic Committee spokesperson had to say. This was before the fight happened. We'll see what they have to say after the fight now that it ended so disastrously. Mark Adams says, I would just say that everyone competing in the women's category is complying with the competition eligibility rules. There are women in their passports, and it is stated that is the case. Okay, so just being a woman in your passport is what qualifies you to compete. Even if you're not going to have a testosterone level requirement in some other sports like sprinting, I think in boxing, because it is so dangerous being punched in the face, I think it really is important that they do more than just checking if someone is a woman in their passport to see if it's okay for them to compete. This is just not good enough from the IOC. It got more complicated and more controversial because we had the Italian Prime Minister getting involved. Yes, we had Giorgia Meloni expressing her dissatisfaction about this, saying, "I think that athletes who have male genetic characteristics should not be admitted to women's competitions, and not because you want to discriminate against someone, but to protect the right of female athletes to be able to compete on equal terms." Exactly right. These people, they'll talk about equality when they're allowing people with male characteristics to compete in women's sports, but it's not equal. It makes it an extremely unequal and unfair competition if you do that. I mean, people just have a completely backwards idea nowadays of what equality and inclusion looks like. What they've done at the Olympics, that's not it. That's not the right way to go about it. So hopefully they get the backlash they deserve for this at the Olympics, and they will change their policy going forwards, or maybe the IBA, the International Boxing Association, will be able to sort their governing body out, and they will be allowed to come back in as the governing body again in time for the next Olympics, so that we don't have any of this nonsense going on anymore. This has been going on for years, guys. There was, years and years ago, a MMA fighter that was a biological male, a trans woman, competing in the women's category, that just knocked someone out cold. Knee to the face, boom, down. And people in the crowd were booing, thank God. But I'm just like, why has feminism got us to the point where we allow men to beat up women? Or in this case, maybe it's a biological woman with an extremely high testosterone level. We're allowing her to beat up a woman with a normal testosterone level. Regardless, it's not right, it's not acceptable. And it's just bloody unsafe. This should not be happening. This isn't political. This is just about basic safety. Okay, so we'll see what other bonkers madness comes out of the Olympics over the coming days and weeks. But I've got a feeling it's going to get worse before it gets better, to be honest. I'm Chloe Dobbs. Make sure you're subscribed to the Reason YouTube channel so that you don't miss our next video. I will see you soon.